Kunda Bihari Jaya Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari. Vishpad Paramhamsa Parivajaya Ashtottara Shadashishama Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Padmahamsa Parivajaya Ashtottara Shadashishama Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai New Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this morning we're reading from srimadbhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 4, Sati quits her body, and Text 4. 4-4. No, is it? Yeah, 444. 444. So does someone have some devices? Or should I just chant it and then, okay. Tom. Okay, so just don't chant it then, just say word by word. Okay. Alright. Tam Anvagachan Jutavikramam Satim Ekam Trinetra Anucharaha Sahasrashaha Saparshada Yakshaha Manimat Mada Adayaha Pura Vrisha Indraha Tarasa Gata Vyataha. Alright. When they saw Sati leaving alone very rapidly, thousands of Lord Shiva's disciples, headed by Maniman and Mada, quickly followed her with his bull, Nandi, in front and accompanied by the yakshas. Purport. Sati was going very fast so that she might not be checked by her husband. But she was immediately followed by the many thousands of disciples of Lord Shiva, headed by the yakshas, Maniman, and Mada. The word, was it? The word gata vyataha, used in this connection, means without fear. Sati did not care that she was going alone, therefore she was almost fearless. The word anucharaha is also significant, for it indicates that Lord Shiva's disciples were always ready to sacrifice anything for Lord Shiva. All of them could understand the desire of Shiva, who did not want Sati to go alone. Anucharaha means those who can immediately understand the purpose of their master. Om Gyanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshudhanamritamya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Akam Garivachalam Gangam Mangaita Gyanam Yakabatam Vande Shri Gurindamitaranam Vancha Kapilivasha Kavasindavivacha Paditanam Pavanivyo Vaishnavi Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So read the translation again. When they saw Sati leaving alone very rapidly, thousands of Lord Shiva's disciples, headed by Maniman and Mada, quickly followed her with his bull Nandi in front and accompanied by the yakshas. So, a real... you could say devotee or a real servant of Krishna, or a servant of the servant of Krishna. They're not trying to, you could say, like make a bargain with Krishna. No, like people, of course, in America everything's set price. You go to the store to buy a bag of potatoes at the local Sprouts, or you buy a bag of dried green beans, right, for Sankirtan or whatever it is, or a bag of walnuts. It's all set price. You can't go to the teller and say, "Hey, I know it's $7, but I only got $5. Will that work?" You can't do that. It's not going to go very far. And maybe they'll give you a discount or something, but generally it's not going to work. So. But it works in India. It may work, right? You could cut it down. You could bargain. China also, huh? Yeah, that's true. I was in Hong Kong actually, and anyways, I bought a suitcase in Vrindavan, Loy Bazaar, and then I was traveling with one devotee, and I learned from traveling with him not to let him carry the luggage, because he dropped the luggage. And it broke. The thing broke. And from Hong Kong, I was going here, and then he was going somewhere else. So I didn't have there was no handle, so it was very difficult. It was heavy luggage too. A lot of books in there, and so anyways, I was saying, okay, what am I going to do, and this and that. And so I was at the Hong Kong temple, and there's this devotee, this Indian fellow, and he came in. And he had a suitcase, his personal suitcase, and it was full of all types of donations. Like it was full of fruit and rice and all this stuff. And he had bananas or whatever, mangoes. And he asked me, "Hey, you want some fruit?" And I said, "No, I don't want the fruit, but I'll take the suitcase." Because I needed the suitcase. So he was about to give me a suitcase, but he said, "No, we'll just go down to the market." So we went down to the market, and they were selling a bunch of suitcases. And then this Indian devotee just bargained with this guy. The guy was getting mad, the seller, because he was just bargaining, trying to lower the price. So then he bought me the suitcase, so it worked out. So yeah, but in America, you can't bargain. It doesn't really work at the normal, corporation stores. So, or the abnormal corporation stores. So the idea is that we don't want to bargain with our spiritual master or bargain with Krishna, like okay, what's the bare minimum I have to do in order to get into the kingdom of God? What's the bare minimum I have to do to go back to Godhead? Because if we're thinking like that, what's the bare minimum I have to do to go back to Godhead? In other words, okay, I want to enjoy this material world, wealth and women and fame and all this type of stuff, but I also want to go back to Godhead. So what's the bare minimum I have to do that? So, but instead of thinking about the bare minimum to do, we should think about what's the maximum I could do for my spiritual master, for Krishna, and also go back to Godhead. And that's you could say healthy, that's a wonderful conception or idea to have and to act on. So we see these disciples here of Lord Shiva, thousands of them, right? Maniman, Mada, right? All these different disciples, followers of Shiva. And they understood the purpose within Shiva's mind, what he actually wanted, and then they acted accordingly. So Shiva didn't have to ask them, oh, okay, all of you, go, get ready, go with Sati. But they understood his mind and they did it. So that's a very wonderful quality that a disciple could develop. That they know what the spiritual master wants, they know what the guru wants, and they act accordingly without even being asked. Not that they don't know, they have no idea, they're clueless, and upon being asked, they reluctantly do it, or they do it in a half-baked fashion, or they just don't want to do it, right? Like, it's not that, first of all, let's say that these disciples didn't have it together so much that they understood Lord Shiva's mind, and they just automatically went. Let's say that Lord Shiva asked them to go. Okay, hey, all of you, get fired up, go with Sati, right? Now if they're like, oh man, I'm kind of feeling tired, and I got to take prasad, and I got to whatever, I got to go to the local, I don't know, go to the local market to pick up some peanut. I don't know if I could do that. I don't want to go. Or they just do it half baked or very unenthusiastically, right? So that wouldn't be very pleasing to Shiva. Like one of my godbrothers, or there was one of my godbrothers, he served my spiritual master for many years, and so he served my spiritual master for many years, and it's quite taxing, because if you're traveling with your spiritual master, sannyasi, who's traveling all over, he's engaging in so many speaking engagements and so on. So it's quite an intense program. And you really have to put aside your own desires. You have to put aside your own schedule and just surrender to it. So they asked this devotee, one devotee was going to take over the service of serving my spiritual master. They asked him, oh, what is your advice? What is your advice how to be a good servant, a good assistant? And then this devotee said, you eat when you can, and you sleep when you can. So in other words, it's like, you're busy, you're taking care of him, and this. So you eat when you can, when you have time, and you sleep when you have time. So it's quite a taxing service. So, the point is that the disciples, they have to put aside their own agendas and their own personal desires, materialistic desires, and just serve the spiritual master. So this is what the Lord Shiva's followers were doing. They said, okay, Sati, she's going to see her father, she's going to her father's house. Shiva's not going to go, but I can understand within Shiva's mind that he wants us to go. So then they do it, and then they go. And it says here that they're really ready to sacrifice everything for Lord Shiva. So that is a disciple, that they are ready to sacrifice everything for the spiritual master, their mind, their body, their words, everything in the service of the spiritual master, the service of Krishna. So this is very, very important. some aspects that we could think about in relation to these disciples of Lord Shiva. And in relation to this idea of service, because the whole, or one of the, you could say, main points of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is that we are a servant of the servant of the servant. I heard that at Mukunda Charan's initiation, Prabhu's initiation, His Holiness Jayaveda Swami said that, right? Servant of the servant of the servant. He was explaining that point. So yeah, that's one of the main points of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, that we're the servant of the servant of the servant of devotees, right? Krishna. So, but in relation to that, there's another philosophical point that, okay, but are we supposed to consider our own selves devotees? And the answer is no. We're not supposed to consider ourselves devotees. Just like Prabhupada, they asked him, "Oh, Swamiji, there's many yogis and big gurus, and they say they're God. So are you God?" And Prabhupada said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not God. Anybody who says they're God, they're not God. They're a dog." And then he said, "I'm a servant of God." And then he said, "Actually, I'm not a servant of God. I'm trying to be a servant of God. A servant of God is no ordinary thing." So Srila Prabhupada said he's trying to be. Such a great devotee, such a great personality, as Srila Prabhupada said, I'm trying to be a devotee. So we shouldn't think ourselves devotees and think that, okay, hey, well, I'm a devotee, so now I'm going to give people the opportunity to serve, me, because I'm a devotee, and I'm going to give them opportunity to practice the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. I'm a devotee, and Now, of course, if someone has a particular leadership role as a spiritual master, as a guru, or sannyasi, or senior brahmachari, or someone like that, then they may do that. That's one of their services. But for the most part, and also, if somebody's married, if there's a husband or something, maybe the wife serves them. Or if someone's a child, of course their mother and father, they serve them like that. So in this way, you could say that the husband, he's accepting service, the children are accepting service, the guru, he's accepting service. But especially for those in the brahmachari ashram, it's really it's a whole different, like in America they say, ball game. It's a whole different ball game, because the brahmachari has no wife, right, by definition, or girlfriend, right, by definition. And the brahmachari means the brahmachari has no personal servant, right? And the brahmachari has no, it's not the mother's living in the brahmachari ashram, there's no mother, right? So if there's no mother, there's no wife, there's no servant, then what does that mean practically? That means practically that we have to be self-sufficient. We have to take care of our own needs and our own, right? So that's an important aspect for those who are in the brahmachari ashram. And one example of this idea of not asking people to serve us is the great example of Lokanath Goswami. So Lokanath Goswami, it's explained that he was the eldest of the Goswamis in Vrindavan. He wasn't like, a junior Goswami. He was the eldest Goswami. So that means very learned, probably advanced in age. And for all practical purposes, he was probably needing service, actually. Because you get a little older and generally speaking, you may need some help, right? But Lokanath Goswami, he was so against this idea that accepting service from devotees, he didn't want to do it. He did not want to do it. One is because he saw everybody as devotees, and why should he accept service from devotees? And he's not a devotee, He's thinking like that. And it is explained that he was so against this idea of like name and fame and all these things that he requested Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami not to put his name in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He said, please don't put my name. So Narottam Das Thakur, which is apparently his only disciple of Lokanath Goswami, he wanted to take initiation from such a great Vaishnava. But Narottam Das Thakur was having difficulty with that. He was having a problem. And why was that? Because Lokanath Goswami wouldn't let him serve him. It's like you're trying to, develop a relationship, and they're just, no, sorry, you can't do this, you can't do that, and the disciple and the spiritual master's relationship is based on service, practical service, right? Like Prabhupada says, you should take care of the bodily needs of the spiritual master, and so on. So, but Lokanath Swami wasn't accepting that. So Narottam Das Thakur, it's not that he said, oh, okay, well, anyways, whatever, I'm just going to go find somebody else, there's probably someone else more, is just as qualified around, okay, I'm going to give up on him. But he was so intelligent, Narottam Das Thakur, determined, that he said, okay, I'm going to try to come up with some idea how to serve him without him knowing. So, as was what people do in traditional times, that, in the morning when he was, evacuating, passing still Lokanath Goswami. So Narottam Das Thakur, for 1 year, he would clean up, the field where he would do that. Very humble, menial service. And then Lokanath Goswami found out over time, and originally he was not going to accept him as a disciple, but then he accepted him, because he said this person's so determined and faithful. But Lokanath Goswami, he didn't want to accept the service. And then there's example of Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami, devotees who know the story better, they could correct or add or whatever, but he was chanting his japa, right, there in Vrindavan, and the sun was beating down. So then Srimati Radharani came, and she put a veil over, right, but because he was so absorbed in his, bhajan, his worship, he didn't know. He didn't notice that. So then but the other Goswamis, they noticed, and they went up to him and they said, oh, you're accepting service from Srimati Radharani, that's not, you can't do that. Like that. So that the Raghunath Das Goswami, Lokanath Goswami, in personalities like that, great devotees, they don't want to accept service from other devotees. And they don't want to accept service from Krishna. But what they want to do is they want to serve. They want to serve devotees and they want to serve Krishna but not accept. So here we're seeing Shiva, and he is with all of his, I don't want to say gang, but with all of his disciples, the Yakshas, Mani Manmada, and they are following Sati. So then, no, Shiva doesn't go. So then, as we're going to see within this chapter, that things don't work out so well. Her father starts criticizing Lord Shiva heavily, and actually her father doesn't even pay her any respect whatsoever. Like she comes in and her father ignores her. So sometimes this being ignored from somebody we love is actually the worst, because like Prabhupada would sometimes chastise his disciples, rightly so, for making mistakes and so many things. And Prabhupada would become upset, and he would correct his disciples. So devotees felt like that was very heartbreaking to them. They displeased their spiritual master, getting chastised, whatever. But sometimes Prabhupada would just not say anything, and just kind of ignore them. And the disciples would relay that was actually worst, the silent treatment, wouldn't say anything to them. So here, because, they love Srila Prabhupada, they want to please him, and then Prabhupada's, does not say anything to him. It's kind of heartbreaking, right? Or one time, when Brahmananda Swami and others, they had this whole idea of Prabhupada's God and all this stuff. Prabhupada, he told them to, leave ISKCON and banish them and all this. And they came back eventually, but I believe it is in that particular case, or in another case, but I heard from Indrayumna Swami that Prabhupada one time told a devotee, "I'm withdrawing my mercy," as we told the devotee. And then this devotee felt like, he literally felt it, like he felt it within his consciousness, Prabhupada's mercy like disappearing. So that's quite a heavy statement, right? I'm withdrawing my mercy. So, when Sati came to see her father and her family, she was very heartbroken that, Daksha, he's not recognizing me, this and that. And I believe he starts criticizing Lord Shiva. And then Sati says, okay, I don't want to be connected with this foolish person, my father, anymore. So she just commits suicide. And then there's a nice big war that happens with all of Shiva's men and Daksha and all of them. So, but we should try to come to this platform as it's being explained within this purport, that those who can anucharaha means those who can immediately understand the purpose of their master. So we should understand what our master wants, what Srila Prabhupada wants, what our spiritual masters want, what the Vaishnavas want. Because if we don't understand what they want, then what type of servant is that? We don't even know what they want. Like it says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was serving devotees prasad, of course he's Krishna, but he's serving devotees prasadam, and he knew exactly what every one of them liked. And he would serve them that, and some extra, right? Because he knew that's what they liked. So if Zach was there, right, and Chaitanya Leela, Mahaprabhu was coming down, he says, okay, Zach wants whatever, we're having burritos. Maybe they don't have burritos then, but Zach wants more burritos, or whatever. Or whatever preparation. So Lord Chaitanya knew that. Now, of course, we don't have, the power of Krishna to know what people want, but if we spend time with people, if we live with people, if we associate with people, we could find out what they like. Like I know what Bajranarayan Swami doesn't like. He doesn't like broccoli and doesn't like okra and kale, and so I know those are. So I know what not to give him, and there's other things, right? So how can we understand the purpose of our master, of our spiritual master? Of course, like I said, living with him, associating with him like that. But in relation to Prabhupada, we can understand his purpose. One, by reading his books, we could understand, listening to his lectures, reading his letters, and this way we could understand, you could say, to some degree, the mind of Prabhupada and what he wants us to do. And he makes it very clear, right? He makes it very clear what he wants. But, of course, if we don't read, or we don't listen, it won't be clear. And then we'll have our own kind of mental concoctions of what to do. So, to be a member of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, which is the founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, is to follow him, and to follow him means to follow what he's taught, his teachings, what he wants, in every regard, and put aside our own ideas. What was I going to say? There was so to put aside our own thoughts, that may be a challenge. That's actually a difficulty because we all grow up in a certain way. We have certain ideas. But again, to really be a true follower is to know what he wants. And that's what I was going to say, that many religious leaders, one of the problems within religions, we could say one of the maybe perceived problems within religions, or within religions where there's prominent religious leaders, is that the religious leaders, they didn't say enough. means, for example, Jesus Christ, of course, his teachings in essence are wonderful, but in reality he didn't say that much. Or Buddha. There's so many religious teachers that actually didn't say that much. But we see with Prabhupada, he actually said a lot. And he actually said so much, devotees, and what to speak of scholars and people in general, they have a hard time actually covering everything he said. You know, like, in other words, reading the Bhagavatam, reading all of his books he wrote, what to speak of reading his conversations, listening to his lectures, reading his letters. I mean, there's a lot to cover, a lot of ground. So the more we could do that, the more we have a better chance of actually understanding. And somebody needs to do that, by the way, I mean, because time goes on, there needs to be people who know what Prabhupada said. You could quote, like Prabhupada said, like a law book. You should quote like a law book. You should know where it's stated, you should know when it was said, what was the context it was said, like that. So in this way we could understand the purpose of Srila Prabhupada. So and our spiritual masters are also following that same purpose. So does anyone have any questions, comments? Yes? Wait. Oh, I have a new...
So, in the start of
Are you taking service from Dravida Prabhu?
Yeah.
No, I'm just
in the start of the lecture, you were saying that we shouldn't see ourselves as devotees, which is obviously true. I was thinking, in certain circumstances, like when we're preaching, because obviously that's the Uttama platform, is to see everyone else as a devotee. But when we're preaching, do we have to see ourselves as a devotee? Because we have to come down to Madhyama platform, but do we still have to see ourselves as a devotee?
Well, when you talk about Uttama, the Uttamadhikari, right, doesn't see himself as a devotee, sees everybody else as a devotee.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
Because you can't preach on Uttama platform.
Yeah. But I mean, even people who... even just people who are like honest, it's like, okay, you read the description of a devotee, right? You read the description of some of the Goswamis of Vrindavan, or so many, or Prabhupada or something. And, honestly, I could say, okay, I'm trying to be a devotee, right? Now to say that, I'm a devotee, it's not the right idea. But yeah, with preaching, it says for the main qualities of a Madhyamadhikari is that they avoid the envious, means the out and out kind of demoniac personalities who are just going to become more offensive. And they serve the devotees, they develop that loving relationship, and they preach to the innocent, and they offer all their love and relation. They try to develop a relation with Krishna. So those are the main qualities of the Madhyamadhikari. So, but also, I would say that a Madhyamadhikari, also they're not thinking, I'm a great devotee and I'm a devotee and everybody should serve me. But a Madhyamadhikari also has some basic humility that, okay, I'm trying to be a devotee. As Prabhupada said, right, it's no ordinary thing. So, when somebody first joins, they may think it's very easy to be a devotee. That's the general thing. And they think it's, I don't want to, depress. No, that's okay. So, no, that's okay. When people join, they think, yeah, hey, I'll go back to Godhead, like I'm there, I'm almost there. Like, I just got a little more to go, and I'm, almost there, right? But then, some time passes, you're like, oh, man, it's kind of... I think there's a little bit more to go than I think, Like me, I also thought, my first try, it's pretty reasonable. I'll go back to Godhead, and hopefully I will. But over time, it became more realistic in terms of where I actually am. In other words, I joined. I thought, I'm almost there. I'm like on the cusp. But then over time, it's like, okay, well, I got a little more work to do. So, yeah, so that's the idea. Yes.
Very good answer.
This is for our internet audience. They request.
Whatever it is, just quick.
Not to take service from you. In addition to what Balarama was saying, Prabhupada said that intelligence means the ability to balance opposing points within the mind. What is intelligence? I'm asking Zach. So, simultaneously one and different. Have you heard that saying before? Does it run kind of as a theme through, So simultaneously one feels meek and humble. And simultaneous symptoms of surrender. One feels very confident that Krishna will give me shelter. So one feels meek and humble, one feels fallen, and one simultaneously feels that Krishna will give me shelter. Sudam Prabhu was walking with Srila Prabhupada and in the LAX, and Klieg lights were on, the news channels. We took over the LAX. Devotees in those days at the airport, 30, 40 pairs of kartals. I mean, you know what it was like. Hundreds of devotees throwing flower petals. I mean, we just took 5 different conch shells blowing, just took over the place. So when Sudam got back, he said, Prabhupada, when I walk with you, sometimes I feel proud, that I'm walking, Srila Prabhupada. And he said, is this Maya? And Prabhupada said, you can feel that by the grace of my spiritual master, I am no longer a fool and a rascal. So we do feel confident. We do feel proud that I'm a Vaishnava. I'm my spiritual master saved me. Prabhupada one time stood in his room and said, I have become a jewel by the grace of my spiritual master. I mean, that's Srila Prabhupada. So we feel meek and humble, and we simultaneously feel confident. It's not a matter of, am I a madhyama, or am I a, or I'm uttama, and I'm coming down to some level. Okay, fine. But really, it's just, as Balarama said, an honest analysis. We simultaneously feel humble, and we simultaneously feel proud. It's not arrogance. It's a quiet confidence. You understand the difference? Okay. But, a lot of things are like that. Things are not black and white in this world. Yeah.
I was thinking there was one pastime with Hridayananda Maharaj. He said he wrote to Srila Prabhupada and he signed off saying, your devotee, Hridayananda Swami, or something like that. And I think in the letter responding to that one, Prabhupada said something like be careful using the term, your devotee. Devotee is a very high thing, not a cheap thing. It's very better to say, I forgot what, your servant or something like that. Yeah. But to call yourself a devotee is quite a high thing to call yourself. And then the other thing I was thinking is there's a lecture that Jayapataka Maharaj gave, and because you were talking about when you serve someone being, sensitive to the subtleties and what they like, what they don't like. And he was appreciating how in some cultures, or some countries, some cultures, I think particularly Bengal, he was saying, the brahmacharis there, when they serve prasadam, they're so sensitive to what you like, and they'll ask you, do you want more? And they'll really read you, does he really not want more? Does he want more, and how much more? And then they'll do that several rounds, they'll go around and they'll say, oh, we want more. And they'll really just be expert at reading you, what you're saying, what you're not saying, all these things like that. And he was saying that they're just a whole different level of hospitality.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, one time I was taking prasadam with, I was taking prasadam many times, but one time I was taking prasadam with, somehow or other I was sitting with Sri Prahlad, the kirtan singer. We're at somebody's house, and they were hosts. They were serving the prasadam, and whatever. The host didn't catch what I was thinking, but he did, and I didn't say anything. But he said, "Oh, Balaram, he wants rice," and then he looked at me and he said, "Is that true?" I said, "Yeah, that is true, actually." And then he did it the next day too. There was some other prep. Oh, Balaram wants this. He said, "Is that true?" I said, "Yes." So he could somehow other tell.
Your spiritual master tells the story. He says that you might look at the dance. Yeah, thanks. No, you're actually right. So your spiritual master tells the story that he was taking prasadam at some life member's house. And, there's so many devotees, and there's guests coming, and Prabhupada speaking, and this and that. And Giriraj Maharaj was sitting right next to Prabhupada, and in a nice way, he thought, "I'm sitting next to Prabhupada, I'd really like to have another rasgula, but I want to show that I'm austere, And meanwhile, Prabhupada's looking this way and talking with so many things. And the father of the life member, old man, came to give him a rasgula. No, I'm a brahmachari, So then he came around later on from the other side and tried to put it on his plate. And so there was this battle going on between the old man trying to give Giriraj Maharaj a rasgula, and Giriraj Maharaj saying, "No, no, no." And out of the corner of his eye, Prabhupada saw the whole thing. And after the third or fourth attempt, Prabhupada said, "Make an old man happy. Take the rasgula, So Prabhupada would also watch what the devotees... Hari Sari said that Prabhupada, would say, "Oh, more puris, so it's a nice thing."
Yeah, I think I read it by Shrutakirti, or it was Hari Sari or Shrutakirti, but one of them, they were there personally serving Prabhupada, and, devotees were all sitting there taking prasadam, and Prabhupada was also taking prasadam, and there was puris. That was one of the preparation. So then later, Hari Sari Shrutakirti, they said, "Prabhupada, I'm kind of feeling sick, And then Prabhupada said, "Yeah, I saw how many puris you had. Like 4 or 5. You had like 5 puris. Of course, you're going to be feeling sick." And then the devotee was like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know how many puris I had, but Prabhupada knew how many puris I had." But the thing is, it's like he was explaining that Prabhupada. It wasn't like Prabhupada was just like looking at his plate or something. Like just Prabhupada just noticed it. It's kind of interesting.
I was on a morning walk and a train went by. So many sannyasis, so many devotees. I was just, as a temple president, I got to tag along. So a train went by. Prabhupada said, "How many cars were in the train?" And some of us hadn't even seen the train, but said there were 6 cars. Prabhupada said, "A gentleman is always aware of his surrounding."
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you had something to pray? Sure.
Thank you very much for the wonderful class. How can a disciple really understand the mind of the spiritual master, Prabhu?
How can a disciple understand the mind of the spiritual master? There's the idea of... generally the spiritual master, like I was saying about Prabhupada, he makes it clear. Prabhupada's the Shiksha Guru. He is our spiritual master, right? Shiksha, spiritual master. So he makes it clear. So if we read Prabhupada's books, his lectures, his letters, all these different things, we can understand the mind of Prabhupada to some degree. Now, and then we have our own spiritual masters, which are following Prabhupada, so they have the same desires. Now, they may have whatever different missions and this and that in a sense, whatever, like Prabhupada didn't do the Polish Woodstock or something. And Jumna Swami's doing the Polish Woodstock. But the basic idea is that, there's more day-to-day things. If we know, like Damodar, my godbrother, he said that when he's served by spiritual master prasadam, they have like a bit of a competition that the competition is that Damodar has to know what he wants before asking him. That's like the competition. And he said, and then Damodar told me he's pretty good at that. Because he served him for so many years. He knows, okay, he wants another chapati now, and he knows the time and everything. Okay, he wants some more sabji. So, whereas somebody who's new, or they don't really catch on to that. Maybe they're spaced out or something. So he's very attentive. So that's like on a practical day-to-day basis. Or you could say, oh, the guru, he needs his sweater or something. Okay, give him a sweater. He's looking cold. Or so it's just in many ways it's just kind of like developing the as Bajranayan Swami just said, like Prabhupada said, a gentleman's aware of his surroundings. So it's developing that conscious, right, attitude.
Maybe we should know our spiritual master well.
Yes.
Or if we do not know our spiritual master, then we should ask to someone who knows our spiritual
Yes,
master.
that's true.
Something like that. Huh?
Like I cooked for Devamrita Swami, thankfully. Actually, I was actually quite nervous. I was trying to find somebody else to do it because, I just wanted him to have a good meal. I wasn't sure I was able to do it. So then there was no one else to do it. So I have to do it. So I did it for a few days. No, cooking for Devamrita Swami. So Suki wasn't here. He was in Germany, and I was thinking, okay, great. So I was trying to find somebody that didn't work. So then I told Maharaj, this was maybe 2 years ago, Maharaj was at Dravida Prabhu's house. So I told Maharaj, I said, Maharaj, I tried to find somebody to cook for you, but I couldn't find anybody, so I'm going to have to cook, And then he told me, friendly way, kind of smiling, he said, oh, I could rough it for a few days. Yeah. So then I was thinking, oh, great, that's the beginning of the... So then I made him his porridge in the morning. It's like buckwheat porridge. So then he had it, and then the devotees brought it back. So there's a little left, so I had some. And I was starting to eat the porridge, and it has a bit of it was amaranth or buckwheat or something. It has a bit of a cracking, rough feeling to it. And I was thinking, oh man, rough start, rough porridge. So I was thinking, oh great. And I asked devotees, is this how it's supposed to be? They said yes. I said, okay, good. So then, but the point is, I didn't exactly know what Maharaj liked. So I was communicating with some disciple, and over phone, and we're going back and forth, texting back and forth, and I was trying to get things nice, and they made up a whole menu and everything. So then I followed that, and Maharaj was very happy, and he told me I was very happy and very pleased, and when I said bye to him, he was leaving, and he said, oh, I'm going to see your spiritual master, and he said, I'm going to tell him. He said that I came to SanDiego, and I felt like I got Giriraj Swami's mercy, So, anyways, it was nice. So it worked out. So I was very happy. I was actually praying heavily that it worked out. So if we don't know, we could ask, but we should try to figure out. All right. Good Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai.